Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Faith Unaltered. I'm your host, David Russell, and I am joined with my two co-hosts that I love very much and think highly of, the legendary Tyler Fowler and Josh Davidson. What's up, guys?
Not much, brother. What's up with
How's your
you?
week been?
It's good. Good. Not
Good.
bad at all. We just ate at Gustav's. It's a Amish place, all you can eat buffet up here in Montgomery. And oh man, I love some Amish food. So
I can't
we
say
went
I've
out
ever
with my
been to an
mom.
Amish food place. I've never even heard of that. That's crazy.
Oh
so,
man.
so we've got Mennonite in Virginia, and they have this place called Yoder's. Little plug
Yeah.
there. And they serve. They have this like fresh deli where like everything's like farm raised and stuff like that. It was like some of the best deli sandwiches I've ever had.
Bro, their peanut butter is phenomenal. Like, I don't know what it is, but it tastes like peanut butter fudge. And I swear, if I could figure out a way to make it fudge, I would. I'd buy it all. Just give me it all.
Right on, right on.
Yeah,
Josh, you good?
I'm good, man. Doing good. Had a good week. Trying to catch up with some stuff at work. It's really difficult to manage a homeless shelter and rehab facility, and we're coming up on winter time, and that's busy season for me. So trying to preemptively get on things like getting the furnaces ready and
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but you're using your computer mic, buddy.
Am I? Oh no.
Yes.
Let me repent real quick.
Please do.
Well, as we sit here, we have a very special guest with us. His name is Archbishop Plato Angelakis, or Angelicus. How's that pronounced, sir?
Angelakis, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are very privileged. If you guys were with us when we were Pora, Archbishop was on with us once before talking about exorcisms. So I would like to welcome him back. And Archbishop, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what your focus is, and you can even plug in some YouTube channels there. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I'm Archbishop Plato Angelakis. I'm part of the independent Catholic churches. So people who don't know what that is basically there's a handful of independent churches that are recognized by Rome as being valid, but we run autonomously from the Pope. So we pretty much have our own hierarchy. That gives a lot more latitude. We don't have to worry about the politics as much, and so that's where what I'm at. I'm from Canada, Ontario, Canada. Born in Montreal, obviously. I reside in Ontario. I travel all over the States and I've done many paracons and whatnot in the past. I've been involved in the paranormal world extensively, but my focus has changed, and we'll talk about that at some time tonight. That's where I became an ordained priest, then an archbishop, elevated to an archbishop in the Mexican National Catholic Church. And there'll be my focus as an archbishop is to maintain that lineage of church. There's church history. If you read of the movie For the Greater Glory, which is about the Mexican Revolution, that's where that sort of stemmed from. A lot of persecutions. The church was ousted out, but then when the revolution was over, the people who remained and became martyrs and survived that and became the rebels that sort of fought for their right to exercise their faith became the Mexican National Catholic Church. So that's sort of the quick history of that. I do have a legitimate line of apostolic succession. My line goes back to the Apostle James, who went west to Spain over to the Americas and up to South America and up to into the United States and of course now in Canada. So that's the gist of that. I got involved in the paranormal world after someone had notified me about a case that they had. Once I got myself involved in that, it just seemed like everything exploded in that direction. But again, like anything else, after so many years of that, there's been I've evolved into something further with that. And again, I guess we'll speak on that later on. But that's pretty much where I'm at. I hold a job, being independent. I hold a job. I'm a registered nurse. I work in critical care, long-term care. I work in all kinds of facets of nursing. I have a family. I have children, grown-up children. I live a normal life like everyone else. Pay my bills, take the garbage out every week. like anybody else. So that gives me that latitude to understand what it's like to be like everyone else, and not to have that sort of being cloistered in a home, in a monastery, for example, and not have that ability to actually see the world as it really is. So anyway, that's the gist of that.
Right on. And you have a YouTube channel, correct? If you
Yeah.
would tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's a sister, Lucy, out in Windsor, and we decided to start a YouTube channel. She's actually very versed in the technical those technical things on YouTube. So she sort of runs that because that's sort of her forte, not mine. So we decided to run a YouTube channel. It's just started this year. We only got 400 subscribers. We'd like to have that grow. We put it's Catholic based, but we welcome anything that's Christian based as well. We put out prayers. We put out rosaries, prayer rosaries, chaplets. We talk on various topics that I think people might be interested in. We welcome people's inputs. If there's something that they want to talk about, we'll certainly we'll talk about it. I think it's a friendly channel. I try not to get too into the dogmatic. I'm not like to sit there and get into the dogma and to the theological aspects. I'm trying to make it more user friendly. So like give me a topic. Like what's fasting all about? What's confession all about? What's those sorts of things? The things that people want to know about and why it's important and why we do those sorts of things. So it's called Glory and Deliverance. It's on YouTube. She's also just started after Halloween. She'll be starting every Tuesday with one of the nights. We've got sisterhoods. We've got the Order of Knights, the Order of Exorcist out of California with Bishop Ron Fail, and he has put us on a directory of exorcists so that other people can reach us. So through all those individuals, they decided to do a weekly Tuesday prayer, a rosary at 8 p.m. So people are welcome to join and be live and participate and pray. So again, we're just trying to get people to come back to prayer and try to get people to come back to the basic knowledge of what Christianity is all about. I think a lot of politics has gotten involved, a lot of different discernments, different interpretations. I think we're just trying to get back to the basic core of Catholicism. That doesn't mean it's exclusive. We will talk about a lot of Christian, generalized Christian faith-based churches and some of the spiritual deliverances. Because exorcism is exclusively a Catholic thing. The rite is exclusively Catholic. The one you see on TV, the power of Christ compels you, is Roman Catholic. It's Catholic based. Though the Greek Orthodox has their own, even the Muslims have their own. Believe it or not, even the Jews, the Jerusalem Jews have their own rite of exorcism. It's not the one you would see on TV. It's very different, but of course it serves the same purpose. And like other mainstream Christian churches, they have their own spiritual deliverances as well, their own sort of rites and rituals. So the one you see on TV, the Hollywood version, the movie The Rite and things like that, that is Catholic based. That's the ritual that I will use. But there are many various forms of rituals. But people seem to always be attracted to the one that you see on Hollywood. So.
Right on, yeah. Well, Archbishop, you have I think your microphone's kind of rubbing on your stole there, and it's kind of making a gritty sound there as you talk.
All right. Let's try that. All right. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, absolutely. So, the reason I asked you out here today, and you enlightened me a lot last night as well with the focus that you wanted to take, and I think it's very important because I was asking Bishop James Long about an uptick in paranormal activity that I've noticed just kind of being in the loop and kind of looking at that whole field. And he told me that there was an uptick, but not in possessions, but in just paranormal activity in general. Mm-hmm. And you came up with a whole different scenario. And I was thinking, well, is it because of social media? And you kind of mentioned that there's this romanticizing going on and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so that's my first question to you. Is there something going across the board? And is there an uptick, or is there something else going on?
Well, there's certainly an uptick in what's going on. There is an increase in paranormal activity. I think. I mean, we got to kind of go back to the sort of the foundation of what's on a couple of things. You know, I think initially when the paranormal field came out, and I think one of the pioneers was obviously Ed and Lorraine Warren. There were many other people and the focus back in the 50s and 60s was primarily, and a lot of people got into seances back in the day, and their focus was, was there a spirit world? Was there another side after death? Was there something? Does the soul linger? Do they move on? Are they stuck? They cannot move on. So all those questions back in the 50s and the 60s was primarily the focus. So of course, people were investigating, parapsychologists, and so the focus primarily was research. Let's prove that there's something there, that there's a veil. All right. So as time has gone by, now we've come to a point at the other end where virtually every city on the planet has a paranormal team and a Facebook page, and about 99% of them are ill prepared, do not have any training, really shouldn't be lingering, because the scripture says, don't go poking the bear, don't be knocking on Satan's door, because he's going to answer. And what would you expect? So every paranormal thing, and I'm guilty of that as well. I was interested. I wanted to experience that. I was one of the guys carrying the EVP meters and the flashlights and going through the, but you can go online and buy a paranormal starter kit for $99.99, and off you go. And you think you're a paranormal investigator, and but I don't think people realize, it's come to the point where it's become an entertainment. It's on Hollywood now. We've romanticized. When I say romantic, we've glorified it. Oh, wow, to be a demonologist. Well, you can read a book. You can read a book about demons, what they do, and all of a sudden you're a demonologist. Well, to be an exorcist, it's a calling from God. He says, "I called you. You didn't call me. It's I who called you." And so there's a lot of people who are ill prepared. There are some that are really good, some that are meant to be, but there's quite a few that are not. So that's where we're at. And I think what my point is I've come to a point where I've come to realize, and I've stepped away from the paranormal a little bit now, a lot actually. I let others in my church and others to carry on, some of the sisters to carry on if they want, to investigate and do things like that. My focus is on exorcism. People come to me with a case. I'm working with a case in Florida right now, remotely, trying to help the individual. That's where my focus is. I'm not going around, middle of the night with the flashlights and all the meters and all the gadgetry, because I think at this point, we are safe and confident enough to say, I think we proved it. There is a spirit world, and in that spirit world, there are spirits that can't move on for whatever reason, trauma, and they need to be assisted. And also in that spirit world, there's an evil, a demonic. God casted out the fallen angels. He didn't destroy them. He cast them out and he put them into another realm in the spirit world. And so what I find is what we've done is we've saturated this industry. This whole ministry has been saturated with so many paranormal investigations, television shows, and I can tell you for a fact, a lot of it is beefed up. In all fairness, it's beefed up. There's some truth to it. There are some things that are actually happening, but that's for the sake of Hollywood and the show and the ratings, we beefed it up. And we can watch The Conjuring 1, 2, and 3. We can watch all the Annabelle shows. We can watch, and I've been told 10% is real, 20% is real, 30 at one of the shows has been real. The rest, a lot of things been added in. So we watch these shows, and then we romanticize. Oh my God, it's great! I want to go see Annabelle. I go see this. I go see these objects or whatever. And all we're doing is feeding. We're feeding the frenzy. We're feeding the energy to these objects, these events, these stories, these homes, the families that they've gone through, we feed into it. And yeah, we turn on our television, on October 7th, and you've got the atrocities in Israel. What they did, I don't care about the cultures and the history, but what they did is pure evil. I mean, unequivocally evil. The beheadings and whatever, and all the murders and the burning people alive. I mean, all these awful things that we're hearing and proven, with evidence. You can't tell me that's not evil. That is unequivocally 100% evil. Where did it come from? It didn't just come out of nowhere. We have now let these things through our involvement into our veil, through the veil. There's a veil, spiritual veil, physical veil, and we've allowed these things to come through. Again, the premise, and this is through exorcism. When you look at the ritual, the exorcism ritual, it's all about consent. What did you do to allow this? They can't enter without us allowing them to come in through consent. It's all about consent. And it can be direct consent or indirect consent. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. So when all these paranormal teams are going around saying, hey, can you hit me? Can you touch me? Can you do this to me? Can you show me that you're here? Push me, turn my flashlight on for me. What do you think you're doing? They're allowing these people consent to come on in. And once they come in, they become an attachment, an oppression, an infestation. Next thing you know, you're taking them home with you to your family, your children, your animals, your jobs, whatever. And next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call saying, I need help. And I say, what have
Archbishop, we lost you. Your mic's not working right now.
Uh-oh, I don't know if you can hear us at all.
I don't know if you can hear us either.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Where's Tyler at? He's disappeared on us. I don't think he can hear us.
Try to get his attention. Yeah, he can't hear us. It must be, I don't know, there's a bad connection or something.
Okay, let's see if this helps. Oh no, that's the worst thing when you're live and that something like that happens. Oh, the trouble with the microphone and then this and yeah. I did say something, Tyler, so I don't he moved it and then it started rubbing again. We don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, let's see if we can get him back on in a minute. So, guys, what did you think so far?
So far, I heard a lot that I actually agree with, especially about being cautionable about, if you have, let's say, a tendency to be interested in things like this that we're discussing now. It's not necessarily like your interest is an indication that you're meant to do something like that this is something that's shouldn't be taken on lightly. I definitely agree with that. I think that's really important.
I'm trying to edit his mic settings, see if that works.
Can you guys read the note I was holding up?
I could
I
could see it.
I don't know
I'm
if
not
you know
sure.
if he can
I don't
see
even
us,
know if he
bro.
can see us, or unless we're frozen to him.
Yeah, I don't think that he can hear us or see us. Yeah, we must be frozen on his end. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
If you like kick him, and I'm not saying like ban him, I'm saying remove him from the studio, so like we go away completely, and then try to message him and bring it back, but he's just talking away.
Kick from studio.
Yeah, kick from studio.
and then
There you go.
I'll send him a message. Take it away, Tyler.
Yeah, so I didn't hear what he was really saying because of the scratchy mic. Like I had my headphones off because it was driving me nuts. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but that was just bad. But I feel like, you know, what David and I were talking about earlier before we came on here is we want to see, and the reason we're having Archbishop come on is we're trying to see a couple things. Number one is, from his perspective, is paranormal activity ramping up? It seems like a lot of different people who are in this field is saying that same thing. Also, if you're just joining us, we're having some technical difficulties with Archbishop. David's trying to get him back. And so I'm just I'm freestyling it right now. But I will say this. So I'm going to ask Archbishop about this here in a little bit if we can get him back. But I've actually been experiencing now. Here's the thing. Obviously, you're going to have your skeptics on one side and you're going to have your believers on the other. And I don't mean in God. I mean in the paranormal. But it's always like that. It's always skeptics and believers. But here's the thing. So let me all give you a little background. I've been having some interesting experiences at my work. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that it's ghosts. I'm not going to go out and say that it's demons. I'm not going to go out and say anything like that. This is what I want to ask Archbishop if we can get him back. But basically, long story short, so I see now I work nights, right? I've been working nights, and I'm talking graveyard shift for over a year now, at least over a year. And so it's not like I'm not used to it, right? Like I'm not adjusting from going to days to nights. It's nothing like that. And so this has been a consistent thing now. David, you need to mute your mic, brother. It's been a consistent thing now, but I see shadow things, like shadows, like in the corner of my eye. And sometimes I'll be looking right at it and like I'll just see a shadow on the wall. And it's not me, you know. Oh, okay. We got Archbishop back.
Yeah, it was really funny because my
We
lights,
can hear you now.
my lights in the hotel room were actually flickering. This is the kind of thing that happens when I do these kind of shows. Everything just goes to heck. Sorry,
I remember you saying that on your last interview with David and Travis and Caleb. That
I'm sitting there and the lights are flashing in the hall by the door, going, "Okay, sure, here we go." You know. But
So we heard about up to you talking about the people that are doing this, and they have to come. They get a call from you, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are getting involved, and like I think I don't know where I was left off, but I mean, I think I'm just trying to show the sort of the progression of how things have happened. I think people have saturated the paranormal investigative world. I think we've got teams virtually every city in the world with a Facebook page. So everybody wants to be a demonologist. Everybody wants to experience paranormal activity, and I think we can, like I said, unequivocally can agree there's a veil. There evil exists. So that's fine. So we've got that. And then, of course, now we're into the objects, and there's many people in the world, and of course, I know Annabelle is the one famous one, but there's stuff down in Las Vegas with, Zach Baggins, who's got a whole museum down there of stuff. There's, John Jaffis, he's had a show, Paranormal Activity, Paranormal Objects. So there's a lot of people who are like, showing these things, and it's okay to a point when you want to talk about their history, how to be cautious, how to handle them, how to seal them up. That's where I did the occult museum blessing to seal them up, and that they're not going to be a threat to anybody. But now I think what's happened is people have romanticized these things. They all want to go see them. They pay money to go see them. They go. There's a museum down in Vegas, and I think that's where I'm starting to think that's wrong, because when we start paying money and we're starting to spending time to go and we're romanticizing. I like that. We're courting these things. We're courting them, and we're giving them a lot of power. And then, I said to myself, okay, what's going to be the consequence of that? Then I turn on the TV and I see October 7th. Now we're in war. Like the whole world's approaching war. And was that part of it? I don't know. But you know what? There's a lot of evil in the world. I mean, and what we saw, for example, the atrocities all around the world. I mean, not just in what happened in Israel, but in other countries, Africa. The famines and the things that are going on. This is evil. This is evil. And I don't think anybody with any common virtues can say to themselves, that was wrong. And so we have to equate that to pure evil. So that's where I'm at. I mean, so my focus is to give knowledge and awareness to the fact that this is evil. We should watch our words. We should watch what we're doing. And I mentioned this to you the other day. I said, is there still a need for this? Is there still a need to investigate paranormal activity, or have we reached to a point where we can say to ourselves, honestly, yeah, there's definitely a veil, and there's one that we really shouldn't be poking, and we shouldn't be letting things through, because I feel this is all just entertainment now. It's just we turn on the channel, we're going to watch all these wonderful shows, and sure, they're interesting, they're exciting, they're beefed up, but to what end? And that's really my idea now. My premise is, because I'm doing more. I'm doing more damage control now with people than actually trying to teach people to be safe and whatnot. The people come to me saying, "Oh, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. Shouldn't have done a seance. Shouldn't have done this Ouija board. Shouldn't conjure this up." And I think the other day I saw a team. I don't even know where it was. They were facing the mirror and they were saying, I'm conjuring. I want to conjure up the gates of hell. Like, what? Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, what do you think that's going to happen? If someone answers that door or that call, what do you think is going to come through? So it's just things like that. I'm just finding why are we doing this? Research is great. I'm all for it. I think investigative work was great. I think paranormal, paranormal investigations are great. If they serve a purpose. But now, now money's involved. People want to be paid for this, which I don't agree. Now we're taking this to Hollywood, and we're making millions on these shows, and they're only 20% real. The rest is all beefed up. And of course, people have museums, artifacts. People are taking things to Paracons, showing things off, having talks, whatever. I think we're going a little. I think we've sort of fallen off the rails on that. But again, that's not up to me. I don't own these objects. I don't want these objects. I have enough to worry about. So then I bring home enough stuff that I need to cleanse. But that's where my emphasis is now. And as an archbishop, with a legitimate church, my focus is trying to protect people, trying to get people to change their ways. I don't think there's a necessity for paranormal investigations like there used to be. I think we've saturated the ministry. I think everybody just wants to experience paranormal activity. I guess that's fine to a point, but I tread carefully. You're walking, you're knocking on a spirit world, and in the book of Ephesians, it's quite clear, saying, first of all, don't do it. And it goes on to say, if you're going to, remember you're dealing with spirit, not flesh, and they operate on a different realm, different rules, it's a different game plan, and if you're going to, have the virtues, and the sort of your character has to be virtuous enough to be able to approach that investigation or whatever you're doing, so that you don't go home with a problem, with an with an attachment. Again, it's all about consent. So if you're walking into a house and you're asking spirit, talk to me, Spirit, do this. Spirit, do that. Touch me, hit me. Tell me that you're here. Move something. You really are treading on some dangerous ground here. And I've seen nothing but bad things happen to people. Not everybody. Some people are happy with doing what they're doing. But I just think, we're romanticizing the characters on TV, these paranormal shows, these paracons. Everybody wants autographs. Everybody wants pictures. Everybody wants selfies. I think we've lost sight of what the whole thing was about. We wanted research. We wanted a paranormal investigative paranormal psychologist to go in and see, okay, is there a spirit world? Is there a realm? Is there evil? And I think we've proven that over several years. I think there really isn't a need for that any longer. But again, these people love the stuff. They watch it on TV, and it's really hard to protect people. And so my focus is now, if you're going to do it safely. Be prepared. Watch what you say. But ultimately, when it comes to these objects, especially the haunted objects, they really shouldn't be paraded around. They really shouldn't be on display. I think they should be locked up. My personally, I think they should all be burned and destroyed. But I understand the theory, behind locking them up so that they can't affect anybody else. But then locking them up also means, have some custodial a warden, for example, someone who's going to be able to make sure that they do remain locked up, that they don't get out, they're not being abused, they're not being paraded around, because I've gone to some of these events and I spend the entire time protecting people, putting like massive blessings on the entire crowd that have shown up, so they go home safe. They don't go home with any issues or any attachments. But I have to ask myself, what am I doing? Why are we even having to do that? That's not even necessary. Lock them up. It's a prison. That's what they deserve. They got cast out of heaven. They've been cast out of heaven. They rebelled against God. They deserve to be in a demonic prison. That's where God put them. That's where they should remain. And we shouldn't be, giving them a hall pass. Come on over to the physical world. You got a hall pass for a week. Stick around, have coffee. Oh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally hear you. I wanted to turn it to Tyler because he was kind of explaining a little situation that he was having. And go ahead, Tyler. I know you had a question you wanted to ask as well.
Well, just given, what Bishop has said so far, my question is, you're talking about a lot of this stuff being fake that we're seeing on YouTube and movies and things like that. Now, how does one tell the difference between is there a way to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake so that we can stay away from some of these different, YouTube channels that's actually promoting fake content out there?
Well, it's all about discernment and understand that, there is an element of real. I was told, that I think The Conjuring 1, 2, and 3. I think the first one, I think it was 30% correct. The rest was beefed up. Hollywood purpose, which is, I understand. Hollywood has to make it dramatic.
Sure.
The second one, I think, of 10 or 20. I can't remember the actual numbers, but there was a low number. So for that, people should just understand. Okay, you're watching a movie. That's great. It's entertainment, but understand that they're trying to tell a story. Understand that accept the story, but understand they're going to beef it up a little. Because it is Hollywood. So YouTube, the same thing. A lot of these paranormal shows. There's a story. These are based on from real people who exist. I know Andrea Perrin. I met her. I have her number. I can call her. She's from Florida. She was the oldest girl in The Conjuring. She's there. She lived it. But the stories are somewhat beefed up. The nun. It goes on and on. I think it's all discernment. I think, like I said, I'm all for education and letting people know that, hey, this stuff exists. Evil does exist. And tread carefully what you're doing and what you're saying, but also understand that there's a lot of Hollywood. I think the one movie that really is probably more realistic than any other movie ever put out there, and Father Amorth, who was the exorcist for the Pope, which is,
Mhm.
there was a movie, The Pope's Exorcist. It was based on him. He said out of all the things he's seen, the original Exorcist, 1973, I think it was, the
Okay.
original Exorcist movie, that's as closest and realistic as you're ever going to see.
The one with Linda Blair.
Yes,
Okay.
the original.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember being in a Paracon back in Upper New York State a few years back, and someone in the audience had asked me, saying, if I watched the movie The Exorcist, the original, 1973, will I be possessed? I said, well, no. I said, but what is your intention? Again, it's all about intent and consent.
Right.
Well, I said, what is your intention? Are you watching it for entertainment purposes? Is it about curiosity? Is it about the ritual, what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, the effectiveness? And his response was, well, I just joined a paranormal team, got a Facebook started, and I just wanted to know if I ever come across a demonic possession, I like to know what I can do. And so he's using the movie as a manual, and I said, no.
Not at all.
Right. So, I mean, it's real, and it's probably as real as you're going to get. And I've had cases that are pretty similar to that. I mean, I know the spinning head part. Certainly that was glorified, but and it was based on a boy rather than a girl. So,
right.
But the ritual, which is Roman ritual, was legit. Those people were real, and they did go through a lot of trouble. But it's not a manual by any means. So I don't want people thinking, let's watch these wonderful shows, and that's fine. If you want to watch Hollywood, but just know it's Hollywood,
Right.
but the stories are based. They say based from true events. Like the movie The Right is pretty accurate. There's some, the journalist in The Right was actually a male, not a female. So, there was some changes there based on a real priest who actually went through those things. And he's currently an exorcist, in a diocese outside of Chicago, based on truth. So take everything with a grain of salt and take what you can from that. Just use discernment. But the whole idea is to show people that this stuff is real. The haunted in Connecticut, the Amityville house. These are real facts. I mean, Lorraine Warren said, this is in the Amityville house. She said, this is as close to hell as I ever want to be. Right. So, I mean, they were there. They investigated. The stuff is real. The cases are real. But I mean, when you get into the movies, there's a lot of beefing up.
Right.
And we know that. That's just what it is. But so that the takeaway from that is, know that this is real. That's the whole point. That's my premise: is this stuff is real, and treat it as that it is real. But take it all with a grain of salt. I think, like I said, my focus now is less investigative work. I don't have time to go. And, I've seen enough things fly off the walls. I've seen enough things thrown at me. I've seen enough lights flicker. I've seen attachments come home with me and many others. I don't need any more of that. I'm convinced, I've seen enough evil. I'm convinced, and that it's there. So my focus is now prevention, protection, and telling people to be really careful. I mean, if you want to continue with investigating, if you like that kind of thing, great. Go for it. But really be careful what you say, how you say it, what you're doing. Pay close attention to the artifacts that are out there, like the objects, and there's so many all over the world. And a lot of it's not even like a lot of it is even unknown. I mean, and a lot of people go to these garage sales or whatever and pick up these things
and pick up objects,
old furniture, and know that that it has some energy, some residual things, and it has some things. So keep that in mind, and just be careful. And but that's not romanticize it. That's not. Oh, hey, look! I just found a doll, some doll. I mean, I'm saying Annabelle, any doll, just any object, or I don't know, something that they found. I can't even imagine. Just use your imagination. I found a relic that has some history of paranormal activity, and treated as such with some respect. That it can hurt you, it can harm you, it can ruin your life, it can ruin the lives of many. So treat it as such. Put it away. It's like, don't let your kids near it. If you're going to hold on to it, if you're going to keep it as a souvenir or something, because a lot of people love to research on things or whatever, like dolls or certain objects, statues and whatever, then that's fine. But I mean, don't parade it all over the place, and charge money for it. To make money to come and have a selfie with it. I just, to me, that's
pushing the gambit, right? Tyler, did you have a follow up there real quick?
Yeah. So I just got two more things real quick, and then I'll turn it over back to David and Josh. So you talked about objects, and one of my questions that I was listening to the interview that you did with David and Caleb and Travis a couple years back, and you had mentioned, like, for example, the Annabelle doll. There's a demon that's attached to this, or entity, some kind of spiritual entity that's attached to this material object. And my question was, what is it exactly that binds, or I think you used the word imprisoned, what is it that binds a spiritual entity to a material object?
It's the consent. I mean, in this particular doll, for example, I mean, it was just a Raggedy Ann doll that was given as a gift.
Yeah.
To make the story short, and then of course there was some paranormal activity in two nurses in Connecticut, and they were studying to be nurses, and they saw the activity, and they called a psychic in. They had a seance. And within the seance, a girl appeared, Annabelle, and say, "Oh, well, I died here, whatever." And the girls had some compassion for her. Said, "Well, why don't you go into the doll, and we will take care of it." They gave it a bracelet, and they treated it like one of its own kids, And next thing you know, it wasn't the little girl; it was a demon who lied. The demons lie. Right. So now this thing is now, through the consent of the girls, have now conjured this demon to go into the doll. Now, we never exorcised the doll, obviously.
Right.
It was imprisoned in a box, which is what Ed Warren did, and Lorraine Warren did, and said, we're going to keep it in the box because while it's in the box, it's imprisoned. Okay. Now, and I've seen the doll, and I've touched the doll, and and I've done the anointing and everything, and this thing is real. I believe it's real. I discern it as being real. I've had experiences with it. And it should stay where it is, in a box locked up. However, among all the other objects in the world today, that because it's a famous doll, we've made this doll infamous. So what we've done is we've romanticized this doll as being this haunted doll, the most haunted doll on the planet, and whatever.
Right.
And now it's being paraded around. It's on show. It's on display. People are paying money. They line up down the road, to go in and have a selfie done with it, and then I spend the entire evening blessing everybody before they go home, so they don't take this home with them. I mean, I understand the allure, they see the movie, they want to see the objects, they see the allure, but I think people have just I was at one of those displays some time ago, many years ago, and one lady showed up and said, "Oh, I didn't know this doll was real. I just thought it was a theatrical doll." So no, this is the real doll. This is the actual base of. And she says to me, "Should I be here?" I said, "Well, I don't know. You paid your money to come here, And they were all lining up to take pictures of the Annabelle doll. And I just said, "Well, look, if you really feel fearful, I'll do a blessing for you." And then when I made an announcement, said, "Look, I told everybody, look, if you all want a blessing before you leave to go home safely, and the next thing you know, my lineup was longer than Annabelle's lineup."
Wow.
So, everybody wanted to be blessed before they went home, and Annabelle got, and so it was, I don't think she liked that too much. I don't know. But anyway, but that's the whole point. Is people were showing up and really not taking it seriously enough to say, "Oh, well, okay, we want to see the doll from the movie," or, and they're I mean, we're all human. We have a curiosity. We want to.
Sure.
I mean, why not? I mean, even I saw. I want to know, is this doll real? I want to go see it. And sure enough, it's real. So I think when people realize it, and it finally hit home, that this doll is the real McCoy. and it's dangerous. And of course, at the time, there's a story told about it, which is fine. Tell the story about how it happened, So it tells people to be careful, not to do something similar. Be careful; it's dangerous, and not to do these similar things. But then people are like, "Wow, I don't know if I want to be here. I don't feel safe." Well,
Right.
you paid your money, you came. Now you're telling me you don't feel safe. Well, so
Is
it's
there
so.
no, I don't mean to interrupt. Is there, just out of curiosity, and then I'll hand it back over to Dave and Josh. Is there a way someone that is curious about these things can safely kind of satiate that curiosity, or just stop being curious about it, stay away from it? It's evil. It could hurt you.
Well, I mean, I think most of these things are on YouTube. The stories are there.
Okay.
People's personal experiences are there. So I think there's nothing wrong with going on YouTube and learning about it. I don't want people to be ignorant and say, okay, well, you know what, evil doesn't exist. It's not there. It's it's BS.
Right.
And these dolls are not really real. Blah blah blah. No, I don't want that. I want people to be aware of them because But you can get that on YouTube. You can get that anywhere. You can learn about the story, just like you asked me about. You get the whole story on all the movies, the real Conjuring, the Real House, the Real Haunted in Connecticut, the real whole thing.
Gotcha.
The players, the people involved, what they actually experience. It's all on YouTube. So I mean, and there's Google too. So I encourage people to learn about this stuff because I want people to be aware. I don't want them to be ignorant. And evil does exist, and be careful because but again, it's there's a fine line between research, education, being aware, and then now let's put it on display and make a few bucks.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the problem there.
And I'm being respectful. I mean, there are a lot of people that are doing that, and they're friends of mine as well, and they're doing that, and that's up to them. I mean, free will to everybody. But I don't. I personally, I'm not going to participate in that. I'll protect people. But, I mean, I go down and I spend the entire day blessing the truck that's moving the objects to an activity. I'm blessing the driver. I'm blessing, the objects when they get there on display. I'm blessing the people that are there, and I'm blessing the people when they leave. But I mean, that's being responsible. And I think that's responsible even on their part. I mean, they're taking precautions. I mean, they sign waivers. They sign waivers for like.
So they have legitimate waivers.
Oh yeah, you gotta say
wow.
before you go to any of these any event and any activity where whoever's running whatever Paracon or whatever show, they got waivers saying we don't hold responsible for what happens.
I think that's one of the things I've noticed. Being familiar with the people in that field is there's not one of them that say they never that they didn't go home with an attachment at some point. These professional investigators, they're like, yeah, we've all had attachments come home with us. But
many have reached out to me actually. People actually on shows have actually reached out to me and saying, I'm having some issues, having some problems, and then I'm sending oil, I'm sending salt, I'm sending all these things to help out. But I mean, again, when you're a pilot. For example, when you're a pilot and you're flying a plane, you fly, 40,000 miles or 40,000 air miles, and you're going to have an issue with the plane. You're going to have a problem or maybe an incident, right? When you're involved with something for so long, something's bound to happen to you.
Yes, definitely.
So
I do want to turn it to Josh real quick. Josh has been haven't got a question in yet. So Josh, I'll give it to you, buddy.
Well, first of all, it's nice to meet you. First thing was a technical thing. Is it possible to have you take your right hand and hold the wire up? Because every time you turn your head, it smacks against there you go. Yeah, it's that side right there. That's the microphone. So that's what's happening. If it's possible to just hold it up away from the shirt because it keeps coming back in contact every time it touches.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. No problem.
But yeah, so I think Tyler was kind of onto the right question by asking. There are people who are going to be curious about this. They're going to look into these things. I think that's why it's important to be able to have, let's say, resources available, like you were talking about, is being proactive and being involved and trying to get people more familiar with, this is a reality. This is not merely a hobby. This is not a kooky thing that some people, are on the internet, but it's like, I think you're right. It is being fetishized in a sort of way. And especially like, let's say I grew up when I was in high school, I was among what would probably be called goth kids, right? And it's like among that, let's say, subculture, there is a huge romanticizing of the macabre, of the dark, of the, the mysterious, of the paranormal and things like that. And so it seems like in terms of that subculture, the increase of popularity of that subculture seems to be a real direct correlation to the desire of, let's say, normal everyday people to actually look into these things. They look, let's say, I don't want to say cool because it sounds stupid, but it looks, celebrity. It looks like it's attention grabbing. And the fact that, obviously Hollywood latches onto these kind of things. I think, is there, let's say, because this is something that I talked to Tyler about a couple of months ago, perhaps, is there even a danger? Is it possible, let's say, for a negative entity or spirit in some sense to use even technology as a bridge rather than a particularized local object? Or is the internet actually a safe mechanism for something like that?
No, you're right. Everything is dangerous. The internet, the equipment we use, our cell phones, our TVs, these are all mediums that are being used to infiltrate. There's no question about it. I just think that just people just need to wake up. They just need to wake up and realize that evil is real. It doesn't care about you. No matter how much it lies to people. And yeah, there is an allure up here. God knows that we're insatiable creatures of curiosity, and we want to go and check things out. And we were told not to entice. And even when I do exorcisms, we're told not to, in the ritual, not to ask questions. They're like, hey, okay, listen, you know about future things, like, give me the lottery numbers for Lotto Max tonight, or give me the Powerball number, I command you, give me the Powerball number, like that's not where we're told to do. We're not supposed to entice. They will lie to you. They don't care. They don't care about your welfare. So you want to romanticize this stuff, they're lying to you. They don't care. All they want is your destruction. Plain and simple. They will use whatever means, TV, internet, media, social media, definitely, equipment, anything, electronics, you name it,
So do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible then for a spirit to, let's say, find a way to transmit itself from screen to screen in some sense? Is that possible?
If you somehow give it consent, well, here's a basic Ouija board. The Ouija board is a piece of wood. It's a piece of wood with some writing on it. I can buy one at the store tomorrow. I can put it on my wall and whatever, and that's fine. It's fine as it is. But when I start using it for a specific purpose, and I give it a purpose where now it's a medium for me to communicate with the dead or whatever, then I'm giving it consent to do that purpose. So it's your consent and your intention to something. An object is just an object, but if you start giving an object a consent to do things, you're giving it a permission. Then that's where the transference starts to occur. So we got to stop giving consent. Pornography. We know people watch pornography on and that's a sin, and a sin in God's eyes. And we are creating an area where an entity will come in. There's spirits of lust. There's spirits of murder. There's spirits of war. There's spirits of what I'm saying. So when you propagate something, then you're allowing that spirit to say, okay, you're calling me. They say that you should never speak a demon's name. All right.
So it sounds like the danger is actually the potential that each individual has this potential to interact with this spiritual reality. And you're saying on an individual basis, you need to be cautious about what you willfully participate in.
Watch your words, watch your actions, Watch what you're doing. Watch what you're saying. So I mean,
So
right
you're
now,
saying that the accident is also a danger, though, right?
I'm sorry. What is?
You're saying that like an accidental interaction is also a danger, like.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, so there's indirect actions. Like for example, Father Amorth, he spoke in one of his books. I remember this. He asked one of the demons. He says, why were you possessed in this sorry, my camera here. Why were you possessed in this young lady? And he says, well, it actually was the father. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, yeah, they just got married, and the groom asked the father for permission to marry the daughter. The father said, "No, I don't give you my blessing." So when you don't give a blessing, you're actually cursing. So that is actually consent. You just consented to curse the marriage. Believe it or not, we think of that as something. No, it's romantic, whatever. It's but there's actually a historical thing. Where the children are actually the property of the parents, no matter how old they are, until they're married and they're given away. And usually it's the male who leaves the family to go to the woman's family and join. It's right there in Scripture. So and usually the father or the mother give the blessing. And so that's a blessing for the family. But the demonic works in generations. They say they work into up to 9 generations. So when people say all my family's marriages are all failing, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, well, something 7, 8 generations back, your great grandmother might have been involved in something that you're paying for. So that's why there's rituals to break intergenerational ties. So you can move forward clean without having to be a victim of consequence to something your great grandparents did, because they were all into the seances back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s. So just things like that. Just it's your actions, inactions. And an inaction could be a consent. It's just hard to explain, but he says basically it's consent. When you will it, we all have free will. We have to be really careful what we do. When we dwell on something, when we dabble into something, we're giving a consent. We're telling them it's okay. It's okay. You want to be involved in this, then it's okay for us to pierce the veil and come into your realm, because you're asking for that trouble. You're asking for that.
So would it be? So what?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Would it be a good? Because I'm trying to think of this proactively, like you had recommended. So would it make sense that rather than simply making a negation or a prohibition to say you should stay away from X, Y, and Z bad ritual, right?
Right.
It seems like it would be all the more proactive to recommend to people let's say, purposefully, participate in things that are going to be, good rituals for the home or for your own practices or for your private
private prayer, family prayer, family time, virtue. Those are the virtues, family time, living a good life, being virtuous, helping your fellow neighbor, not propagating hate, we're just seeing so much hate out there right now, and the racisms are going on, and we've got a war, and we've got people protesting, and I mean, these are the things that are just like, I mean, when you see 1,000 people protesting, I don't really care what culture you are, and whatever's going. Yeah, people have been protesting. The youth protest, the old protest, all the races are protesting. What do you think you're doing? You're yelling out and you're protesting. You're conjuring. Something, and there are consequences to all that. Something's going to pierce back and say, "Well, you're protesting. You're yelling, screaming. What do you think is going to come back?" So it's just that's changing our values. And for those who are into paranormal investigations, well, I don't think they're necessary anymore. I think there's been enough of them. I think they've saturated I mean, why keep doing them? I think I think we've proved it. There's things out there, the unknown. So why do we keep doing it? Because people enjoy doing it. Well, okay, that's fine. If you want to go do it for entertainment purposes, that's fine. But I mean, remember, someone died, or people have died, haven't moved on. I don't think they should be the product of someone's entertainment. They need to move on, go to the light, sort of thing. And those who do go out, and they're free to go. I mean, everyone's got free will. I don't care if they don't want to go. I'm not going to go anymore. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But if those who want to go out, watch what you say, watch what you do, show some respect.
And you wouldn't, Archbishop, you wouldn't say, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you wouldn't say this to like the investigators are actually going out to try to identify what's going on with a family so they could get them help and stuff like that, right? Because we've done the scientific research, but there are all those calls that say, hey, there's something in my house. Help me,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I go, and if there's entities that need to be moved on, I'll help them pass over, and then I'll bless the house, and then then I leave the family with some good things, and there's some prayers and Bibles and crosses, and and I don't care if you're not Catholic, if you're just if you're a Christian based, go to a Christian based church, but I mean, you need to be doing something, and you got to remember, when you remove something from yourself, you need to fill the empty space with something good. So an exorcism, if I cast something out from you or an attachment, you need to fill that empty space, because like the Bible says, the demon will come back to its original house, which is where it was just cast out, or an entity, and can find it empty. So if you don't fill the empty space, it will find it empty, and it will bring something worse than itself. And I have actually seen that happen. So, and it's not good. It's actually worse than ever. The person's actually worse off, and they I should have just left them alone. So they need to fill something with good works, virtuous, practices, good habits. If people really truly want help, they need to do the work. It's
that was pretty much what I was getting at. Yeah, is the idea of like, if you're going to take away, because it's not necessarily just telling yourself no to the curiosity of something that looks like darkness. You're like, well, I want to look at it. It's we do the same thing. If you see a snake on the road, you're afraid of snakes. You can't help but stare at the thing, though. You know what I mean? So
right.
So if you take that away, what do you then put in its place? And I think, like you said, the virtues, chasing after virtue is something that I think is probably the best safeguard against, let's say, accidental
prayer, good works, reading some scripture, family time, going to church. I mean, people call me up and say, I got a problem, and they want me to come like Harry Potter with my magic wand and bibbidi bobbidi boo. It's done, and no, it's for real. And they say, well, what about you? I said, well, I don't see a crucifix up, I don't see a Bible on the table, I don't see you going to church. So you want me to come fix your problem? And yet, I remember one person calling me up and saying, well, I'm atheist, I don't believe in God, but I have this problem. Can you come fix my problem so I can go back and live my life? Well, I kind of use God to kind of, do what I do, So if you don't believe in God, this is not going to work, So, it's amazing that people that call me and they say, this is what my problem's fixed. Well, no, I'm not a problem fixer. I'll tell you, the main goal of an exorcist is to go in and recover your free will that you somehow have lost through direct or indirect consent. So once I get your free will back, then you take your free will and you use it. Now change your ways, get across in the wall, get some blessed objects. I give you salt, I give you oil, use it. I give you prayers, I give you tools. Get to church, get praying, get the Bible out. Do the work. Do the work.
Right.
It's your continued journey. I'm just there to get things started for you. I'm not there to fix.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jesus when he picked up the adulteress and go sin no more.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that whole mantra of, hey, look, you've been freed. Now the work starts. The work.
What? Actually, my friend, I actually a perfect example. I'm glad I'm going to actually use that if you don't mind. That's a great example. He says, go forward. Now your sins are forgiven, and don't sin anymore. And and you're right. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I've done my part. I restored you. I've got you back on your feet. Brush the dust off your body. Now move forward and do the right thing. And some people don't. They go back and they fall back into the same problem. So perfect example. Thank you for sharing that. That's very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Archbishop, I do have another question. It's kind of like a follow-up to this whole idea of consent and stuff. It kind of follows that line. Would you say, because I work in a very historic area, and there are things you see, and would that and Tyler was talking about, now that he's working the night shift, he's seen some things that he can't explain. So, I mean, is this just those things like you were talking about, I think in our last interview, about Jesus being tempted? Is these type of things trying to push at us at that point when we see, like, I've seen a shadow figures here and there, and I've heard voices, on some of the floors, and I'm thinking, this stuff's been built on hundreds of years of history.
It is, yeah. And what it is, some people are more sensitive than others. Some more people are more intuitive. When you're looking for it, you probably end up to see it. I mean, it's all around us. I mean, I see that in my workplace as well. I see it at home. I see shadows, whatever. Some of them are benign. They don't want to hurt. Some people are just spirits. Some will move on. Some are playful. Whatever. I mean, if they're bothering you, you have the right. Everybody has their own free right to say, "This is my home. I have boundaries. I want you to leave." Some don't mind having them around, whatever. But when they become problematic, you need to deal with them right away, because an attachment is just an attachment. But if you leave it alone and you don't do anything about it, then it becomes an infestation, then an oppression, and then if you keep going, and it becomes a full blown possession. So it's not something that just happens overnight. If you don't deal with it, it will grow and it will fester. So, if you see something you don't like, you need to deal with it right away.
Right.
I mean, a baptism is considered an exorcism. Going to reconciliation or reconciling with God is considered an exorcism. These are mild forms. It's not just the ritual you see on on Linda Blair, that's the most major form. But there's so many levels of spiritual deliverance. So like asking for forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving others is a form of reconciliation, is a form of exorcism. When you baptize a baby for the first time, when you're a newly born Christian, that's a form of exorcism. These are all ways to, if you're reconciling with God, you're making good, and you're getting right with God, and then but then again, that's when the work starts, and because that's when the evil will be actually more enticed to get after you, because he knows, well, now it doesn't have you anymore, and so you need to pray and keep it up and be consistent, and staying away from things. I mean, the allure is there. I mean. I fell for it too. I wanted to see things. I was curious, as an archbishop. But, the allure is there. But you know what? The reality is, at this stage of the game, I know it's real. The devil is real. Evil is real. The objects are real. Things are real. There's a lot of evil in the world. It's lurking. It's growing. That's the big thing right now. It's in our physical world now, and it's growing.
Yeah.
And that's where
and you can see it with like the direct assault on the image of God on humanity.
Oh, my
I
God.
mean, it's big. I just wanted to turn it to Josh real quick. Do you have any follow up, brother?
Actually, I'm curious about because we started the conversation mostly talking about, let's say, the demonic, and then the possible dangers of demonic activity, and your intent to interact with this, and then your consent to receive from it or be engaged with and then participate in their will. But you're also mentioning the idea of, let's say, something more like ghosts, where it's like a human spirit in some sense trapped in a place where it ought not be. I'm curious about that. Why is there, because it doesn't seem to make sense, let's say, just playing with the bare bones of the idea. When you die, shouldn't you be consigned to the presence of God or not? And if not, if that's let's say you're not in the presence of God, you're being in some sense separated from God. Is that like a precursor to hell? What is it that we're seeing with human spirits in the world right now?
We're not entirely sure totally about that. I mean, the spirit world is far vast than the physical world with all the dimensions and whatnot. I think earthbound spirits that I've encountered are just spirits that have had traumatic events, or there's something that needed to be done before they can move on. So, I mean, I go there and say, I basically say, I forgive you of your sins. Whatever you did has been forgiven. Now go forward. Go, and I always say, go to where God deigns you to go. It's not my place to tell you. Go to where your next journey is, because I don't know where that journey is. It might be another life. It might be another place, another dimension. It might be hell. It might be heaven. I don't know. That's not for me to say. I'm not the judge and jury. I give you forgiveness, move on, and they tend to move on. Also, I find that where the demonics usually hang out are the ones where the earthbound spirits are. Because earthbound spirits have their own energy, especially children have a very, very powerful energy, and the demonics love to feed off that. So wherever you find earthbound spirits, you might find a demon lurking somewhere in the back. So you get rid of the earthbound spirits, get them to move forward, and the demons easily dealt with, and you can get rid of that as well. But that's so they just why they're there. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure that out. But what we can do as a family of Christians and just a fellow man is help them move forward. They're not there for entertainment. Touch me, move the buggy, move the light. They're not a circus act. They want to move them on. Move them on. That's what we should be doing. And it's this thing with money is just a big thing with me. The paranormal investigators, well, I'll charge $50, $100, $500 to clean your house. Jesus didn't charge a dime. Jesus said, "Go, apostles, bring nothing but just the clothes on your back,
Right.
and take whatever you can get." And I never charge for my exorcisms or my activities. All out of pocket for me. So and so if anybody's out there trying to charge you money to do something, walk away. Because that's not part of it. Money should not be a part of this. This is supposed to be people helping people. Let's get back to brass tacks and say people help. Let's get them move forward from their trauma, whatever, and then the families that are living there can live peacefully. And let's just stay away from the evil, and let's not give them any leeway, any authority, any power. That's basically what this whole thing is about.
All right. Well, yeah, I had an interesting encounter when I was in Puerto Rico, and my parents, they had been telling me about this guy that comes and visits. He always tries to help them out and this and that, and but he kept saying that he's got these stigmatas that come up and this and that, and so I want to, and you could tell me if you think what happened there was valid. I started noticing some things with him, like the change in his eyes,
Okay.
and I started playing just out loud the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. Well, this guy started like tensing up, and this and that, and over the night he was looking like directly at me, and he was like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And he was like, and he shook his head, and then I said, "Do you want me to pray for you?" And at first he didn't, but at the end, before I left, he did ask me to pray for him. And I told my parents, I was like, "Hey, this guy's not what he says he is. I think he's oppressed by something, and I think that my discernment was there. So, I mean, maybe you can, tell me if I was correct or whatever." But ever since I prayed for him, he said the things calmed down for him. And then
Absolutely.
within
Yeah.
it was only a few months before he started having experiences again, but like
Yeah.
he's never forgot me,
No.
when I call my dad.
Yeah.
My
That's
dad
his
lets me talk
journey.
to him and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's his journey, and that's just where he's at. And definitely prayer helps. And I encourage people to pray for everyone, and pray for each other, and help each other. Pass us forward. We've all have experiences. All of us here talking tonight, we've all have experiences. We've all been involved, and help the next guy. Help the next guy.
Yeah.
We have experiences. We have some knowledge. There's some that are not so trained, and we're probably all of us here are probably trained. Help the next guy.
Yeah.
Show them, teach them. Get on your platform here and your YouTube on your podcast here.
Yeah.
Educate people, and and again, they're welcome to come to my YouTube channel, Glory and Deliverance. I got a lot of Catholic prayers, but I like to do some talks. People are welcome to send me messages. What do they want to talk about? What do they want to know? How can I help them?
Right.
And it's there for references. I want to build it up so that people can come to it and say, okay, I've got an attachment. What should I do? Well, a spirit bath, for example, with oil and salt and things, and I can explain how things work, and and just things like that. I just, help the next person, because there's so many people. We just can't keep up with the demand right now. It is just saturated with people asking for help.
And
But at the same,
I did want to ask you that too. First, I wanted to say, do you think that discernment was correct? That I was picking that up
yes,
with the eyes. Yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean that gives me a little bit more confidence
yeah,
as far as that type
yeah.
of stuff goes.
Well, you saw it, you
Yeah.
identified it, you knew what it was, and you immediately went into prayer. And as a
Yeah.
result, as a consequence, he
Oh, he just dropped off.
Oh no,
I,
what
I guess
happened?
I guess the devil didn't like that question.
Oh man,
Something like
jeez.
that question. But yeah, I mean, it was just really interesting that all those things that transpired during my my stay there. Yeah, it was a wild time, and I agree with them. We're there to help people and educate. I think that's a big thing, and that's why here at Faith Unaltered we try to also equip people to identify, and to live a practical Christian life, and you're going to run into these things, I think, if you are a Christian, you know.
Right.
I don't know what you've ran into, Josh. I'd love to hear some stories sometime, but yeah, I think, I think, I think we have, as Christians, run into these things,
Yeah.
and it's good to hear like someone say, yeah, I mean, you identified it, and you took action, and I think that's what we need to do. And the other thing I wanted to ask him, and I'll ask him it when he comes back, is that um if the reason he's doing so much damage control is because of that saturation. Is there, with these people playing these games and going to these paracons and messing with these haunted objects or whatnot, uh like he says, he's doing a lot more damage control, and I'm wondering if that's what's causing this whole uptick in the paranormal and so forth, or what these people are bringing home.
I think it's kind of like a Baldwin effect. It's like a feedback loop
Yeah.
where, the more people gain interest, the more the
Yep.
interest gains traction, the more these spirits are going to latch onto that, because it's really just free lunch for them, But what's really interesting is how directly relevant a lot of this is to the conversation that I was having with Travis and Garrett and Spencer and Troy last Friday.
Yeah.
on
I know it
Cognitive.
would be a great, I know it would be a great.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how relevant, because what we were describing last Friday was ultimately, what does it mean for a spirit, to operate in reality? Like, how does a spirit move and have body in the world, right? How is it that spirits are able to gain body in the world, and not necessarily through a direct possession, but even through, like he was describing, how our intentions and our consent to participate in the will of other spirits is actually relevant to what we do on a day-to-day basis, even in things that seem to have no religious context whatsoever. And then, you start to think about, what do I do? Where do I invest my time, my energy, and my attention? And
Right.
what you do with your time, energy, and attention is very costly to you, so it needs to be worth that investment. A lot of people are not thinking about their attention and time the same way that they think of their resources, like their money. But you can spend or waste your time and attention just the same as you can with cash, but you'll never earn more of it. So we should be all the more careful with how we invest and use the resource that we've been granted. I
Right.
think time is something like heaven's currency. We should be
Right.
really on top of these things and be careful with what
Yep.
we're doing.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I mean, the fact that people are spending money just to get selfies with these things and stuff like that, it's wild. It's wild. Oh, welcome back, Archbishop.
Yeah, well, it's the story of my life, the technology just quits. When we start talking about things that are important,
Yep.
we get shut down all the time.
Right on.
The lights are not flickering, my phone's going crazy. So, yeah, that's
Yep.
just the story of my life.
Yep. So I was talking to Josh a little bit about what you said earlier about damage control and stuff that you're doing a lot more of, and I was asking, maybe the uptick that we're seeing in this paranormal stuff is directly related to these people that are, being dangerous with this stuff and bringing stuff home and stuff like that. Is maybe that's is that something that you agree with?
I agree totally. Yeah, I mean, I think people
Yeah.
are going to these activities, events, paracons, whatever their involvement is. I don't think they're going in prepared and then not taking care of a cleansing before they get home. Like we usually, we do a pre-prayer, we go in, and then we do a post-prayer or a cleansing of some sort, and then two people just go home and then they don't realize they've got issues. So.
Right.
I mean, you just can't roll in the mud like, hey, with a pig. You can't roll in the mud with a pig and not go home dirty. So when you're going to go and involve yourself with the spirit world, you need to be prepared and solid, and and your mind needs to be clear. You're not going to bring your family problems, your employment, your work problems, whatever issues you may have. Your mind should be clear when you're going into these things. Because they'll play on it. Their weaknesses. That's how they get in. And so I mean, when I used to go to these activities or investigations, and I would make sure the people that were going, that that they're solid, everything's good at home. There's they're not dealing with a problem, they're not dealing with financial hardships, they're not having family disputes with their spouses, no issues with their kids, maybe no health issues if you're sick. Go, because I don't, you're the weakest link to the team, and and then of course that's when it comes in. That's another form of consent. When the weaknesses of issues, and then all of a sudden you bring that home with you, and then all of a sudden you got a problem, and then not only am I finishing this case, I'm going back and I got to clean up the mess from something else. So this is serious business. This is a dirty job. It's not glamorous. I mean, it's not something you're going to go to your guidance counselor in high school and say, when I grow up, I want to be an exorcist and I want to do it. It just doesn't happen. It's a calling, but it's a dirty job. We get spit on, we get vomited on, we get thrown across the room, we get things happen to us all the time. We go home with attachments. We have to leave our families. We have to do this. Then we have to travel. It's not glamorous. And everybody thinks, I'm going to read a couple of books and be a demonologist. And it's great. It looks great on paper. You have a beautiful title, and it's great. But when it comes down to actually doing the job, it's a dirty job. They're not happy with you. You're tying people down. You're getting consent. You're doing medical records. You're doing interviews, and you got other people helping you. They're doing other mental health professionals making sure that they're safe. There's some people that I don't think people understand the liability. You're going in to help someone. If you're sick, and you've got, say, cancer, or you've got a heart disease, you're going to go to a professional. You're going to go to a heart specialist. You're going to go to an oncologist. You're going to go to a doctor that, or someone that knows what they're doing. So it's no different in the spirit world. No different in spiritual deliverance or in exorcisms. There's a family that's calling out saying, I have a problem at home. And all they're doing is they're reaching out to a paranormal team that has a Facebook page. A bunch of kids got together at a bar and say, "Hey, let's form a paranormal team."
Yeah.
We'll go to Home Hardware, down the road, $99, starter kit, for a paranormal investigation. And then next, this family who's in distress, financial hardship. Who knows what else is going on? And these people are not prepared. They go in, they don't understand the liability. If something goes wrong, it's on you. It's on you guys. Right. And so it's not glamorous. It's serious work. There's a lot of, a basic exorcism for the Roman Catholic Church in Rome. You might not see a person for 2 years. You can go to them and say, I got a case. You might not see them for a year to 2 years before they even start. There's so much investigative work and preparation. For myself as an independent, in the absence of the politics and all the other things that are involved, it's still going to take you 6 to 8 months before I got to send you the prayers. I got to get you prepped. I got to interview family, yourself, your doctors. I've got to, I may have to send a paranormal team in there to see what's any activity. There is so much involved. There's consent forms, liability forms need to be signed. I have to have a health professional. I'm a nurse, but I have a health professional taking vitals, blood pressures, because as I'm doing an exorcism, the blood pressure is rising. I would say, okay, I'm going to stop, give this guy a break because he's going to have a heart attack. or he's going to have a stroke. I have to make sure that, what's your health history? Can you handle an exorcism? There are so many factors involved. Can you handle, you're going to have a stroke on me. Can you handle an exorcism? Can you handle being tied down, bound by 4 adults to make sure you're not flaring all over the place? Like, what medications are you on?
Wow. Yeah.
And so there is so much to think about before you even go in. It's like, well, I was lucky. I'll be there tomorrow with my, I'm going to start doing my thing. There is so much prep work, and these people who are out there, self-proclaimed demonologists, or ill-prepared priests, even, you've got a lot of prep work, and then they have to show me that they're willing to do the work and the journey, whatever, and we work with them, until everything is done, and they're on their own, and they're strong enough to take care of themselves. But there's a lot, because the liability is, people have gone to jail, people have died, in exorcisms, and this is not a joke, and they think, oh, it's great, let's form a team, and then, no, you're going to people's houses, they're expecting a professional to go in who knows what they're doing, who can prepare, help them, counsel them, guide them, social workers do one thing, counselors do other thing, grief counselors do other. Everybody's got a specialty. They're licensed professionals, so and they're trained. I got mine. I got some Vatican training, and so you've got this continued education. It isn't just reading some books, this continued education and preparation. So but anyway, that's why I'm really really in about the artifacts, and people handling legitimate, real, demonic, possessed artifacts. They're out there. People are buying them. They're on eBay. People are holding them, collecting them. They're showing them off. They're making money off them. They're putting them in museums. And I don't think they really understand what they've got. And they really need to treat it with a little respect. Even if it's demonic, you need to treat it with respect, because it's got power, it's got authority, and it can hurt you. And if people have been hurt by objects. So again,
so your advice: don't try this at home, kids.
well, no, I mean, I can respect the allure, the curiosity, the research. I think it's good for people to be educated, not be ignorant, and think, okay, this is just crap. This is nothing. This is BS. I think it's important for people to know that it's there, but also have a really honest respect for them. It's okay to actually pick up an object and say, okay, I've got this. I heard it's got it's done so. That's fine, but respect it. Respect it. Treat it with respect. Protect yourself from it. Have it like blessed or protected, like the Annabelle dolls in the case. And that's fine. That's where it should be. But leave it in there, like don't be dragging it all over the place and showing it off to people. I mean, that's fine. People are doing that. That's their business. But I mean, to me, there is a danger in that. And I certainly don't want the responsibility or the liability for it. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Not.
Absolutely.
These objects have been proven to hurt people. People have actually died and been injured. So there's no excuse for it. If you want to keep them in case, you want to keep them in prison, great. But they're not a circus act. They're not like a bear in a cage. A bear's in a cage because a bear is dangerous, but you're not going to go parading the bear, and poking the bear in the cage because it's just you have a little some respect for these things because they're for whatever reason they're possessed, whatever. You can either destroy them, burn them, do whatever, and unfortunately, those entities will be released and they will end up probably somewhere else. So I do understand the premise about locking them up in a demonic jail, but then then maintain that jail and treat it as such. That's my goal. I mean, and it's not. It applies to everybody. There's people. A lot of people are collecting these objects because they think this is great. Oh my God! Oh, that Luigi board. It's got history. It's been in the family for 150 years, and it's my mother was doing seances, and they'll buy it, they'll collect it, and they think it's great to have that in their little collection because they like their haunted objects, they like their haunted stuff. So, but treat it with respect.
Gotcha.
So, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I just had one last follow up before we let you go. I want to respect your time here as well.
No worries.
What do you think, as an investigator, as a almost a former investigator, kind of in the middle there? What credence do you give to a lot of these new devices that are coming out that people are supposedly can buy on Amazon? I mean, do they
Yeah.
work? I mean, I
No,
can
they do.
understand an EVP voice machine, but like, I mean, we've got spirit boxes that are scanning FM
Yeah.
radio forwards and backwards. I mean, it could is that even possible?
Well, there is, and I've
Yeah.
seen some really good equipment. I know there's some good paranormal investigators that are specifically doing the tech work. They're very talented at taking things and and getting the information from that. Again, it's all your discretion, but the equipment's okay. I've seen some really good evidence from them, but remember, if you're dealing with anything with negative or demonic, they're liars. Okay, they're
Right.
liars. Okay, and so be careful what you're hearing, what you're being told.
Right.
And so take it all with a grain of salt. It's okay to get something from that, but
Right.
then that's where you like I said, that's where you fall to the to that well do that again, like
Yeah.
move that water bottle,
Absolutely.
and so be careful. They don't, they're not in for your best interest. So
Right.
take it with a grain of salt about what you hear, what you're hearing, what you're seeing. um, they have their place, in the evidence world. But just be really careful of what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
And if I mean, obviously, if you're going to be in the business of doing that, invest in some good equipment. I mean, I know some people have got some fantastic equipment, and there's some people that just have an app on an iPhone, and it's garbage. So
Yeah, there's something that's programmed to actually say something.
yeah. So
You never know.
so
And
I've seen some.
that's kind of like my thing is like,
Yeah,
how do you really even know at that point if what you're getting is real? And like you said, um, you can you go from pretty much when you have this. I think there's an enticement to go from, you pick up a little bit of evidence and now you've gone from an observer to a protagonist to where you're actually, hey, like you said, do that again or say that again, and
yeah,
you're making assumptions of what its intent is.
yeah, and
you
it's
know
addictive. It's addictive because they want to see
yeah.
things flying off the wall. They want to see these things.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's turned into a circus act, into entertainment, and
Yeah.
it defeated the purpose, the original purpose of paranormal parapsychology. The study of ESP and the psychic phenomenal, and in the spirit world, and things that are beyond once we passed away. That was the whole premise, was to prove that there was that, and there was an
Yeah.
existence, and there was a realm, and there was some credence to psychic phenomena and ESP, and and all those kinds of healing things and vibrations, and all the things that we hear, crystal work, and all kinds of alternative healing and medicines. All these things started as in the pioneering stage, for a purpose of research, investigative, and then to empirical data, to have something, that you can say, okay, we have some evidence, scientifically proved evidence that this actually exists. Okay, well, we've gone beyond that to
Yeah.
the entertainment,
Yeah.
of it all, because I think we've got enough evidence to say, yeah, okay, this stuff exists,
Yeah.
this stuff works,
Absolutely.
healing helps, crystal work, energy work, vibrational frequencies, and multidimensional things. I think we can honestly say that that stuff is there now. So I think, is there still a need for that? No. Is there still a need for paranormal research? No. I think if people are looking for help, go and help them. They don't need to go through the house and and start asking questions. Again,
Yeah.
I think it's just more of an
Gotcha.
curiosity and entertainment, and I'm just not into that
Yeah.
anymore. I don't have time
Absolutely.
for it. I don't have time for it. There's so many people in need right now. I think there's just so much anger, and there's so much anger and hatred in the world right now. I mean, you see that right now, and people who are horrendously being hurt and killed, innocents. That, my friend, is probably is demonic and evil as you're ever going to see to this date. So I mean, it's pretty bad. I think so.
Yeah.
We really got to turn this around somehow, and
absolutely,
and get that hatred down, and let's help people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Josh, I do want to turn it to you for one last comment. Any final thoughts there, bud?
Just that I'm appreciative of your time. I really appreciate you. This was a great conversation. It sucks that the technical difficulties were ramping up here and there, but like you said, if that's to be expected, so be it. And if this is something that makes the devil mad, all the better. But I am definitely.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
we'll chat again. If you don't mind. The Glory Delivers channel. I mean, it's something I'm trying to build. I'm trying to get something.
Yeah. So Archbishop, I would love to you actually send the link because I had it on my work computer. That's when I was watching your YouTube there. Just send me the link in Facebook and I'll add it to the description.
I appreciate that.
Probably this week. So absolutely. So guys, again, Archbishop, it was a pleasure talking to you. I mean, it's always a pleasure. I had so much fun the last time as well. So very, very important things that you said about this glamorizing and how this has become more of a danger.
Monetizing, monetizing, glamorizing. It's just, it just doesn't feel right.
It's become something. Yeah, it's become something that it shouldn't. It's evolving into something that it shouldn't have. And I hear all your warnings. I take them seriously. I thank you for your time and patience with us. And even through the technical difficulties we had. And for guys next week on Faith Unaltered, we've got a head shaving going on. I believe we hit our 2000.
I'll pass on that.
Yeah, you enjoy your hair. I don't have any. It's this guy over
turn.
Here. Yeah,
I'm
Josh
is
shaving
my head.
We hit 2,000 subscribers, and So now we got them by a certain date, and that was the challenge. That if somebody we got it by a certain date, Josh had to shave his head. So
maybe if I get 2,000 subscribers on my Glory and Deliverance, maybe I may consider it.
It worked. I'm telling you right now, it worked.
Right on. Well, guys, that's the next week, and we of course we have shows every week for you guys. So stay tuned for that. So in the meantime, good night. God bless. As Tyler says, stay like Christ.